Okay, so welcome everyone to this session. Thank you for joining us. So right now we're just going to go into today's email. We're going to look at quote for today and preparation message, which will prep us nicely for the Name Your Game session, which is happening after this this first part, and then we'll read and discuss the lesson, meditate on it, which should get us into a nice space for the exercise. Okay, so let me share my screen with you. Okay, so can someone read the quote for us?
I will. The only way love can last a lifetime is if it's unconditional. The truth is this: love is not determined by the one being loved, but rather by the one choosing to love.
Okay, so any thoughts on that? Kind of stating a simple truth, really, isn't it? So you can this former is a American film writer, producer, and former pastor, a guy called Stephen Kendrick, just states the truth about what will make our relationships in this world sustainable. So you may agree with it in theory. The task we all have while we seem to be living in this world is far greater than mere intellectual agreement to this truth. Our task is to learn to love the people in our lives unconditionally, no matter what they do or what seems to happen on the level of form. And that's probably the greatest challenge we will have. Intellectually, theoretically, you can say, I love God, I'm one with God, and but the rubber meets the road in how you perceive and behave towards other people. And that's an indication of whether you really love God. In other words, that loving awareness is yours, or actually the ego and the belief in separation is still very prevalent, which is why Yeshua said, love your neighbor as yourself, in addition to love your God with all your heart, mind, and soul. So you realize that the first one, well, you could kid yourself and say, yes, I do love the Lord my God with all my heart, mind, and soul, and it could be a very kind of intellectual, conceptual kind of thing. But actually, could you behave with loving kindness, unconditional love towards others? Well, that would be the acid test, wouldn't it? Whether you could maintain that loving awareness all the time, even in situations where apparently it's justified to not unconditionally love. So hence those two, and that's why there's an emphasis on relationships in this course, saying, well, this is where the rubber meets the road. Can you apply this in your relationships, and actually bring in the love of God, which is unconditional love, into those, because then you're in it, and there's a degree of mastery. The more you can unconditionally love, the more mastery it reflects. So if you pause to consider whether you're currently doing this or not for a few moments, and you've been completely honest with yourself, you'll almost certainly admit that you're not being unconditionally loving towards any of the people in your life all the time, and perhaps very little of the time. Okay, but that's okay. Don't be disheartened by this. Acknowledging the problem is the first step in correcting it. And second step is just to commit wholeheartedly. So we're going down, dropping our attention down into our heart center, to learn this ultimate of all skills. I'm committed to learning unconditional love, which is something that no one's taught you up to this point. We've heard of unconditional love. It's a nice, unconditional love, divine love, it's called. agape love. So I think in the Greek they call it agape love. It's beyond special. It's beyond I need, I want kind of love. I love you if you do this and this and this, but I don't love you if you don't. It's beyond that. And so it's there as an idea, an ideal, let's say, in our mind. But practically speaking, most of us don't live it, because it requires that you forgive or let go of any negativity that you notice arising in your mind as your default response to any personal situation. And so to forgive means you must let go of whatever negative thoughts and emotions arise. If you forgive yourself, that's what you mean. I'm letting go of those thoughts and emotions. If you forgive another, that's what you mean. I'm letting go of those thoughts and emotions. It's the same thing, isn't it? Hence, to forgive another is also to forgive yourself. It's the same thing. You must let go of the negative thoughts and emotions that plague your mind and block the awareness of love's presence. And only then can you love unconditionally. Because lack of forgiveness or failure to let go means that you're choosing to hold on to and believe in your separate self-concept or ego. You will always find a way to justify your lack of unconditional love in whatever form it may take, on the grounds of seemingly external events to maintain its identity. So therefore, letting go of your belief in the false causation of these conditions and correctly perceiving it is your own false belief in separation is really the only problem you have, is the way to undo the ego. And you see that. You must let go of the false causation. Say it's not the outside world that's doing it to me. It's actually my own false belief in separation that's playing out here. That's the only problem I really have. If you can accept that simple premise, that's the fundamental premise of this course, then the ego is in trouble, because you're now getting to the core of it. Okay, but even that, okay, so I accept that, conceptually, it's my own stuff. I must let go of my own false belief in separation. What does that even mean? What does the false belief in separation mean? Again, it's too conceptual. This will remain largely an intellectual realization until you become aware of this belief in separation in all its destructive forms that play out in your life, and you choose to let them go. So you must personalize it. Okay, so it's not just a theoretical construct, abstract, the idea of separation. It's actually my anger, it's my guilt, it's my fear, it's my addictions, it's the games I play, mental, emotional games, manipulation, control, people-pleasing, and so on and so on, right? That's how the belief in separation plays out. And that's what I need to let go of. Because these habitual thoughts and emotional patterns that form your ego constantly influence your thoughts, your words, and your actions. And so they govern you. What you think of as you, your life, your thoughts, your words, your actions are governed by these mental and emotional patterns, which are simply not true. But they seem to be quite strong and powerful. So then you wonder, well, how can the untrue be so seemingly powerful? And the answer is because you've invested so much time and energy in cultivating them, in practicing them diligently, learning this false thought system, that then because your mind has power, your mind misused then seems to have powerful consequences. And now you have to face those consequences and let them go. So these patterns, habitual thoughts and emotional patterns, and your thoughts and your words and your actions are the games you play. Now, this is how you observe the ego, to strengthen your separate identity, keep the game of your human existence going. Okay, so we're going to have a look in this afternoon's live session. We're going to help you expose the games and ultimately the false self-concept that underlies them, because it's great feedback that will help you to do exercise 5. So we'll help you to name your ego's game. But then you do exercise 5, will help you identify its core belief or your fundamental life operating program, or your flop. Because if you can identify that core belief, can you see the power of that? Okay, that's the problem. You've identified a single belief. You've honed the ego down to one belief which then has spread through your mind like a virus, and has caused all these patterns, all these dysfunctional mental and emotional patterns, and all the games you play. And it comes down to one core belief, which means you can let go of that belief, and the ego's house of cards, which is stacked on that belief, then is no longer. So if we have a look at the where are we? Level of mind, instrument of peace. There's the house of cards: perception, emotion, thought, belief. So it's all stacked on top of false belief. See that? And underneath that is a desire to be a separate self. But that core belief is sacrosanct to the ego. That creates the thoughts, the emotions, and the perceptions, which are the patterns of thought and behavior, which cause the games that you play on the perceptual level. Right, so we've got to go dig into the core belief, and then the whole thing, once you pull that out, the whole thing collapses because it's got no foundation. It's a false foundation. And this is the essential teaching of A Course in Miracles, to do the digging in, go down through the level of perception, through emotion, to thought, to core belief. That's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be exposing the perceptual games. You'll feel emotion, thoughts will come up, and then on reflection, you should be able to see that core belief very clearly. So when you go down through these levels, it can be challenging, right? These are all defensive levels in the ego's thought system. So it can be challenging, especially the emotional level comes up, and it can seem quite difficult to manage, emotionally difficult, overwhelming, so on. But just sit with it in your presence. There's an awareness now in all of you that's able to just observe that without fully identifying. You are not the emotion. You are not the thought. You're not the beliefs. You can just be the witness of those. And that's going to really help you to do this exercise and get the most out of it. Okay, so once you've done exercise 5, then it'll help you to flip the flop in next Sunday's live session. So I'll help you to identify what that flop is if you're not sure. We turn it around, and you discover your essence or Christ identity. So again, the Christ can be just a concept. It's like, my Christ self, and it's nice words, but can you really feel that? Can you really connect with that internally and feel it mentally, emotionally? Does it take you into a state of mind? That's what we're looking for. So next week's session is the transformation, the turnaround of the ego's thought system. So you've got to look at the darkness. Today's looking at the darkness in order to undo it and go to the light. Which will be next week, which then sets us up to complete exercises 8 and 9 in the course manual, which establish a blueprint for this higher self to live in the world guided by inspired values. So how do you ground this? How do you make this practical and tangible and real and doable in your life? That's what the blueprint for your higher self is about, expressed in values that you can actually live according to. And then your higher purpose or special function, as Yeshua calls it in A Course in Miracles, which is to express and extend unconditional love in your own unique way. So all of that work prepares you for this higher purpose, which is to express and extend unconditional love, which is what we're talking about. So in the quote. So can you see how that whole process will help you to actually learn unconditional love and do it in a much more systematic way in your life? So if that all makes sense to you, then here you are. You're welcome to the session to actually do this profound work. It might just be the most powerful transformational work you've ever done. I've had that comment before from some people, but it's it's whether it's the most powerful, one of the most powerful, doesn't really matter. It's an experience that's there for you to help you in your awakening journey. And then that sets us up to build the foundation of your life on the rock. Yeshua said that parable of the rock and the sands of the ego. Said, if you build your house on the sand, which is the false foundation of the ego, then the rains and the winds and the storms will come and they'll blow it away. In other words, the adversities of life will make that crumble. It won't withstand those adversities. But building it on the rock means that you're unshakable. Doesn't matter what happens. The house of your life is solid, and you become very resilient to adversity, which is one of the side benefits of this. In fact, I read somewhere that's the new intelligence. Someone said it's resilience intelligence. It's emotional intelligence. This is the new buzzword, resilience intelligence. Because we know in life that everything doesn't always go smoothly. We have difficulties. We have challenges. And those who are resilient get through them. Those who don't often crumble and fall by the wayside. Their spiritual growth is sabotaged. And so breakdowns, and we all have heard of know people who had nervous breakdowns and plummeted into depression or severe addiction. This is kind of just falling off the path and not being able to continue to build the foundation of your life on the rock. So these exercises of the heart of this transformational process, this course is taking you through, will help you to make the theory we've learned over the last 3 weeks a living reality. Right? So it's about living this course. It's not an intellectual exercise, a theoretical exercise. Not like, well, I'm a course student. I've been studying it for 20 years. It's like, well, who cares? Are you actually living these teachings in your daily life and really integrating them and experiencing the benefits? That's all that matters. And you don't need to have done 20 years of intellectual study. In fact, that can be a big obstacle, see, because you can have studied it for that long, go, well, I know it, but actually you don't know it experientially. It's all in your mind. Some intellectual concepts, and the ego can get attached to that and create a spiritual ego and say, well, I'm quite clever because I'm a course student. And, you can discuss the theory, but to actually live it is entirely another matter. So that's what this is about, bringing it down to the practical daily life. Can you live this? Can you live this new essence identity out in your values and in your higher purpose? And those profoundly change your thoughts and your feelings and your actions and your words every day. That's life-changing. Then we'll also work through the remainder of the first 35 lessons of the workbook and read the first 5 chapters of the text to strengthen and build on this solid foundation. So you're getting a transformational experience and also the start of the spiritual path. If this resonates with you, then hopefully you'll continue to study the course afterwards. And you'll establish some powerful new habits that will serve you well for the rest of your life if you keep practicing them. And there's a follow-on program, as you know, ongoing daily program, which I think most of you have been on. Just not Christine, but if you'd like to continue, then we continue on with the same formula, just less intense. So it'll be one live session a day. It's more manageable to help you to integrate all this into your life and live it more and more deeply, connect with the truth, become the living truth. In the Bible, they say something about the living God. So God is not some intellectual, conceptual idea. It's living in your awareness, and it comes into being in and through your awareness and your life, and it comes into the world that way. And that's what we're trying to help you all experience and achieve. To deeply understand and live by the liberating message of the Course in Miracles, support you in your ongoing hero's journey of fully awakening to the magnificence of who you really are. So that could be I guess in that sentence, the Art of Letting Go's mission, if you like, to help you deeply understand and live by the liberating message of A Course in Miracles, and support you in your ongoing hero's journey of fully awakening to the magnificence of who you really are. That's what this program's about. Okay, so any questions on any of that? Quite a bit I covered in a short time, but just a quick pause if anyone's got anything to ask about any of the things I've covered, the journey ahead, what's happening today. Now's a good time. Otherwise, we'll just crack on then with the today's lesson. Okay, so let's dive into the lesson then. So we would like to read this one, and in fact, let me just tab across because the lessons are getting a bit more Christian terminology. Decided to switch it to putting it into a document. So you would have access to this in your email, and I put it on Telegram. So just so you know, the first bit is the introduction to the part 1 of the workbook. So it's worth just reviewing this every now and then, just to remind yourself how he wants us to practice the lessons. That's why I put it in there, because it applies to all the lessons in part 1. Yeah. So there's that, and then there's today's lesson. So who would like to read the lesson, the original alternative form, and then paragraph 1 in the original and the alternative?
I'm happy to read it.
Okay, John.
The idea for today is, of course, oh yeah, okay. God did not create a meaningless world. Alternatively, love did not create a meaningless world.
Okay, and then you have a picture of crazy, that's some riot going on and riot police, and just really, really chaotic. And yes, just giving us the correct interpretation of all of these kinds of events that seem to happen in the world in today's lesson.
The idea for today is, of course, the reason why a meaningless world is impossible. What God did not create does not exist, and everything that does exist exists as he created it.
Okay, do you want to translate?
Yeah, sorry. The idea for today is, of course, the reason why a meaningless world is impossible. What pure formless awareness of perfect love did not create does not exist. Going back to number 3.
I've left it as create. I was tempted to change it to extend, but I think in this context, create is more impactful, don't you think?
Yeah.
Did not create, did not extend, because then we'd have to change it there. Love did not extend the meaningless world, as opposed to love did not create. And actually, it's referring here, the creation then, what we think of as creation, something coming into being that wasn't there, that creation, what is it most people's interpretation of creation, is actually false creation. It's the ego's creation. Because God is eternal and doesn't bring anything new into being ever. It's always been there.
Yeah.
So this miscreation of bringing into seeming existence a universe of time and space that doesn't really exist is the miscreation of the mind and doesn't really exist. And this is quite a mind-blowing lesson. I remember I got this and sort of started understanding this when I read The Disappearance of the Universe. I'd read the course and I'd been doing the lessons for about a year. But it just hadn't dropped in. I'd obviously read lesson 14 and just hadn't penetrated for some reason. And then in Disappearance of the Universe, they're having a conversation. Markson and Purser, the Ascended Masters of Gary Renard's Ascended Master friends, are having a conversation about this topic. And they're saying, well, God didn't create the universe. God didn't create the world. And very explicitly. And I remember just sitting with that. It was like, my goodness, something just dropped in. And I still remember the moment. I was sitting at my desk and reading this book, and I just paused for a few minutes and I just looked around. I was like, whoa, this isn't real. For the first time, it kind of dawned on me. I was like, okay, this is what it means. Because I'd come across the concept of illusion, and it was kind of, I don't know, it was intellectual. It was like, okay, it's an illusion, but I didn't really get what it meant. And then in that moment, I was like, oh my goodness, I know this is actually true. I get what they're saying. I'm in a dream right now. I didn't know what to do with that. I was like, oh, don't remember the words, but oh shit, what do I do now? So I sat like that for a few minutes, and I think I had to go somewhere and play squash. So it was like, okay, well, I guess I'll go do that. But I'm not quite sure. Like it was a destabilizing moment, my existing thought system, that's for sure. And I guess it's taken me the next 15 years to try and make sense of that, integrate it, try and live that truth. So it's a profound realization. It doesn't fit. Nothing quite prepares you for that in this world. All of your mind training up to that point, the ego's education doesn't help you once you realize that none of it's real, and that the true God had nothing to do with it. You're living in a false world. Therefore, it has no, as he says, the logic is clear. The reason why a meaningless world is impossible is because God, which is ultimate source, didn't create it. So what's impossible doesn't exist. You're living in an impossible, non-existent dream.
I think I had today.
Huh? You?
Yeah. I was lying in bed Saturday morning. I can't remember how it came about. I was just looking around the room. I was probably doing one of the exercises actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking around the room, and it felt like I could feel it dropping into my head. I could feel the awareness kind of happening, and it's almost like it came to about here in my mind, but I don't think it fully integrated, but I really, really began to get it. And I don't know, it kind of put me just in this state of understanding that none of this is real. And it really started to sink in yesterday.
Yeah.
But it was like the beginning of it, and I was just I could almost grasp this. Yeah. So
that's the insight, understanding's coming as you clear away the blocks in front of that heavy emotional layer and stuff. Then that is what starts to happen. The realization just starts dawning on you, and you start but I just feel it.
Oh, wow.
I get it.
Yeah. Oh wow.
I get it.
Oh my God. Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Exactly. And what do I do? I mean, what do I do with that? I wasn't sure what to do with that realization. It's like, wow, I'm still here, and my body's not going to disappear anytime soon, as far as I'm aware. I mean, I suppose it could do. You don't know that. Everything's up in the air and in question.
And last night I went out with some girlfriends, and we were just sitting around their house, and we'd all bought food, and we were just sitting there having these conversations, and I just really felt myself in this observing what was going on, and they had all their gripes and stuff going on in their world, and I really felt the meaningless part of it, but not in a I don't know, critical way. It was just I was just sitting there observing it, taking it all in. It was interesting. Interesting experience.
And that's you see, there's like a non-judgmental. You see what he means by no judgment. You're not really judging it. You're not condemning them. You're not saying, well, that's bad, or there's no interpretation. Just observe.
It was just what was happening in their lives. There was no good, no bad to it.
Yeah.
It was just
you just observe, and there's an awareness that observes. That is non-judgmental, and that awareness is what he's trying to take us into. It's non-dual. It's not judgmental at all. So
interesting.
All good. Well, thanks for sharing that. Okay, so back to number 2. So what pure formless awareness of perfect love did not create does not exist. Does everyone understand? The logic of that is clear. We are saying that only this is true. Pure, the philosophical foundation is that only this awareness of perfect love is true. So that's a matter of faith to start with. You have to rest on that premise. It's okay, I accept that only, yes. The premise is yes, only that is true.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Right. And what it did not create does not exist. So
Number 3.
therefore, if it does not from that, it doesn't exist. That's the premise. So everything else doesn't truly exist. And that's the the fundamental philosophical premise of this course. If you disagree with that, well, then you've made God into something he's not. And you can believe that if you want to, but then you must believe in a dualistic God. You must believe in yin and yang and light and dark, and that both opposites are real. And then there's no escape from it. You're caught up in duality. Do you see that? So it's a fundamental, this is a fundamental lesson, this one, because so many people have this dualistic belief system that somehow God created the world. If you believe that, then you must believe that God is dualistic, that God is both love and fear. And you see that. If the world of fear is real, then God created it, then both must be real. Now you have a dualistic God, which is insane. You've got a total contradiction. God loves, but God also fears and hates and attacks and kills. Well, how do you make sense of that? Religions have been trying for thousands of years to make sense of that paradox, and it doesn't make sense. It's simply the logic doesn't stand up. So you have to. The only way out of that paradox is to accept this premise. Say what pure formless awareness of perfect love did not create does not exist, because only pure formless awareness of perfect love is real. And that's the premise on which this entire course rests. Okay?
Yeah. Move on to number
the
3.
original.
Yeah. And everything that does exist exists as he created it. And everything that does exist exists as this awareness creates or extends it.
Yeah. So everything that exists in this awareness, in and through this awareness. That's the premise. So nothing real can be threatened. It's a restatement of that original summary of the course, isn't it? Nothing real can be threatened. Everything does exists as this awareness creates or extends it. That can't really be threatened. And nothing unreal exists. With God, what this awareness did not create does not exist. So it's a restatement of that. You see that in those 2 sentences.
Yeah. The world you see has nothing to do with reality. The world you see has nothing to do with reality. I think we need a capital R.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. Yeah, capital R. And the world I don't know. I mean, see, obviously, we're talking about the visual sense. Should we stick in perceive there? The world you perceive.
Yeah.
We're talking about sight and sound. All of your senses involves perception. There's nothing to do with reality, capital R. Yeah. So we're distinguishing. As soon as you put a capital on it, you're saying, well, that's ultimate reality.
It is of your own making, and it does not exist. It is of your own making and does not exist.
Remember, he uses from this point onwards the fundamental distinction between make and create. So to make is of the ego always, and then to create is of the spirit. That's how he uses those 2 terms consistently in the course.
Yeah.
There's Elaine. So then he goes into a little bit of instruction on the practice, which I'll take you through. But let's read number 3, because there's a little bit of useful stuff here. So who wants to read number 3?
I'll read. The idea for today is another step in learning to let go the thoughts that you have written on the world and see the word of God in their place.
Yeah, and then the alternative down below.
The idea for today is another step in learning to let go of the thoughts that you have projected on the world and perceive the message of perfect love in their place.
Yeah. So the thoughts you've written, what he means is projected, yeah, on the world. From a false belief system, you then project those thoughts onto the world, and every situation is then perceived through that thought system. So you don't perceive things as they are, you perceive things as you are internally. That's what this teaching is saying, essentially. So if you look at that, from your beliefs, false beliefs, thoughts, emotions, all of that is what projects onto the world your perception. That all this stuff gets projected into every situation, and then you perceive it in a certain way. And then you go, oh, well, I'm perceiving it this way because of the external, the cause of the, whatever the sensory data is that's coming in from people, places, circumstances, seemingly outside of yourself. But that's just the trigger. That's actually quite a minor part of the perception. Stuff comes in, but how you interpret it is based on your mental and emotional programming, or your ego, which then projects itself into the situation and makes it into a perception, which then becomes, if it's coming from a false belief, becomes the outer, the hard shell, the outer defense of this whole system that's false. Do you see that? Those perceptions. So what Yesha's got to do is crack that open. Say, no, let's start questioning your perception. Crack it open and start looking at the emotions and the thoughts and the beliefs that underlie them. And if you can get to the core belief and realize that it's really my core belief that's the problem, then that's the miracle. Then you change your mind at the core level. I desire to be one self rather than a separate self. Okay, so let's go back here. So number 2, if you can read number 2 for us, Sue.
The early steps in this exchange, which can truly, which can truly be salvation, can be quite difficult and even painful.
Yeah.
The early steps in this exchange, which can truly be called awakening, can be quite difficult and even quite painful.
Yeah. Feel that? I mean, everyone's been through that, some of that. Mental and emotional pain, it's difficult, it can seem overwhelming. Because all this stuff that's been unconscious, the layers have to now come into conscious awareness. You've repressed them. You haven't wanted to be aware of it. Now you're having to become aware, and it can feel overwhelming. And they're not pleasant emotions. So then they grip you, and they seem to have a reality and a power and an intensity that is difficult to comprehend, really. If it's all false, how could what is false be so seemingly powerful? And that's probably a question everyone's asked.
How does it take over so much?
The answer is that's the power of your mind. If you give yourself over to a false belief, which we've all done, and you really say, I choose to believe this, and I choose to believe it so much, I want this so much to be true, that I'm going to forget the truth. I'm going to throw the truth away. I'm going to bury it so deep within me that I'm never going to find it. And you do that with your mind, then the result is a very deep-seated false belief system that seems to have enormous power, because you've given it that power, because your mind has power. I'm saying I can't depreciate the power of your mind. Your mind is powerful. It's created by God. So of course it's powerful. You just need to start using it wisely. So choose your beliefs carefully, because look at what belief has done to you. Look at the world it's created. And then you start recognizing the power of beliefs. Everything that we experience in our life, everything that we perceive, the entire construct of the world is the product of a belief system. Well, you say beliefs don't have power. Oh, yes, they do. If it's false, a false belief system, then ultimately they can be undone. But if you want to continue believing in these things, then they seem to continue to have power, and they seem to enslave you, because that's what you've chosen.
Yeah, you create your own beliefs.
Yeah. We've created our own false belief system. We said, I want this above all else. I'm not interested in the truth anymore, because I want to be a separate self. I want to create my own reality. And so I have to bury the truth. I can't hold to the truth and also have my own belief system. And so we did that way back when the separation apparently started. It was a very childish desire. Well, I don't want God. I don't want any of this stuff. Forget that. I want to be a separate self. I want to be in charge. I want to be self-created. I want to do it myself. I, me. And then we've created a world as a result of that desire. See, so that's what rests at the core level of desire. The belief lies on the desire still to be a separate self. So the transformation happens when you change that desire. So no. And now my prayer is to be one. And as we'll see in today's text reading, talks about the only prayer is for forgiveness. True prayer is to let go of all of this, to ask to let go of the beliefs, the thoughts, the emotions, and the false perceptions. Just collapse the whole thing like a house of cards and allow the truth of your one self to shine through all of this, and to once again come into your mind as the truth of who you are, and to live through that, and then experience profoundly different beliefs, thoughts, emotions, and perceptions in your life, and life experiences. And that's really what we're doing with this naming your game process, and then next week the flipping of flop. It's the core of, okay, let's uninstall this program. Let's really expose it. You can see that it's really just a shabby belief system that is not worthy of your attention or your time or your effort. And you allow the essence identity, which is your Christ identity, to come and replace it. And then thought, emotion, perception change kind of, we're going to go through a process in 8 and 9 where you establish a value system. So now you've got different kinds of thoughts, which allow different kinds of feelings. That's the blueprint for your higher self, which allow different kind of perception. And from perception comes action, words and actions, which can then be inspired. And those can then take you on a path of extending this essence identity into the world in your own unique way, which is your higher purpose or special function. So does that all make sense? You can see the methodology, and it's nice to have this diagram to reference to. So what we're actually doing with your mind in this process. Okay.
What you were saying there, what really resonated with me was where you said, I want to do this myself. And I have a really strong recollection from childhood of like all the shit happening and just being in that really low place. But even then, I'm like, I felt really determined that I could
do it myself. Okay, Sue just disappeared. I don't know what happened there, Sue. Maybe your internet is giving problems. Okay, so where were we? Some of them will lead you directly into fear. Someone else take over. Elaine, maybe?
Yeah.
Read from number 3. Some of them will lead you directly into fear.
Some of them will lead you directly into fear. Continue.
Yeah, there's no translation there.
Oh, yeah. You will not be left there. You will go far beyond it. Our direction is toward perfect safety and perfect peace.
You're saying, okay, fear might come up because you're looking at your own false thought system, which is based on fear. The projection of this false belief system into the world creates a perception of fear. But he's saying, don't worry, it's just temporary. We're going to go through that. You won't be left there. We're going through that towards perfect safety and perfect peace. Which is very comforting. So whatever you experience is temporary. And so that applies today. Whatever the fear is that arises, disturbing thoughts, emotions, just recognize that it's temporary and this too shall pass. So it's a great reminder. This too shall pass is reminding you that anything the ego does is temporary by definition. And what lies beyond it is the permanent safety and perfect peace of pure formless awareness, perfect love. Sue, you got interrupted. Do you want to finish your sentence? You were saying when you were.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. I just got chucked off. I remember feeling really intently as a child when all my emotions were kicking off was that I want to do this myself. Like, I was really determined, and I could feel the determination of like, I can do this on my own. And what you said there was just made me think I can do this on my own, as opposed to allowing God to help me. So that was, that's like, quite a big wow for me.
You see how you shut it out. It was a decision. It was actually a conscious decision to say, no, I'm going to do it on my own. Might be tough, but I'm the independent hero of my dream. Yeah. And I'm
I can do this.
I'll do this, and you soldier on.
I'm not bloody minded. I can do it on my own. I don't need any help from anyone.
Yeah. And then you suffer.
And I did.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And that's by your own, by your own decision.
Yeah, I chose that.
So if you can realize that, then you can choose again. You don't have to keep, that was just a bad choice. At that point, your ego was in charge, and it was telling you, listen to me. This is going to protect you. I'll keep you safe, and I'll be your guide, and trust me. And you listen to it because you were looking for comfort and guidance, as we all do. And then, this voice says, I'll look after you. Just follow me. But it's a liar. Don't believe it. This is what he's telling us. Don't believe it. It's a pack of lies. It's leading you in the wrong direction to a place where you feel even more vulnerable, more fearful, more scared, more alone. So how's that helping you? Yeshua says at some point, the ego is a particularly unfortunate choice of guide in salvation. Particularly unfortunate, because it's taking you in the opposite direction. It's not going to work. So we've all chosen it to one extent or another. And it's to recognize that it comes down to the choice. I did choose it. The desire to be a separate self. That's the level of the miracle, isn't it? Yeah. That's where the change of mind happens. Okay. You look at that and say, do I really want to be a separate self? Given my life experiences, given how that's played out for me over 40, 50 years, would I really want to continue to be a separate self? Is that a wise choice, given, what I've experienced? And if you're really honest about it, you'll go, no, it really wasn't a good idea. Look at what's unfolded. You can track all of your pain and suffering to that choice. Yeah. That's the essence of the miracle. Okay, you made the choice. And then you stuck by it through thick and thin, through all of the pain and suffering of the ego, without questioning it, saying maybe that was a bad choice. And now finally you're coming into this higher awareness to be able to question that choice and say, okay, I can see maybe that wasn't a good choice. So I can reverse the choice. I don't have to choose it anymore.
Good.
Yeah.
I've always had, I know oneness is like quite a difficult thing to get head around, but I've always been particularly challenged by the idea of oneness.
Yeah.
And that's quite interesting because it feels like I've been so determined
To be
my
separate.
whole life from my childhood, to be separate.
Yeah. But there you
and
have,
be led by the ego.
That's the core of the ego, isn't it? I want to do it on my own. I'll do it on my own. I don't need oneness. I don't need any of this love crap. I'm independent, free will. I can make my own choices. I'll do it my way. And that's, the essence of the stubborn ego, which is quite prevalent in our society. The idea of an independent, we get these archetypes cropping up, and you want to be independent and do it yourself and self-reliant, and this kind of thing. That seems to be good, isn't it? But actually, you realize it's delusional.
And it's weird because I'm not really like that as a person. It's just I can feel. I think emotionally, I've made that myself. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, stubborn.
Well, it's a false self-concept.
Yeah.
It's not really you, but it's a false belief that's become a self-concept that's now dictated thought, emotion, perception for most of your life. Because that's what the power of a fundamental belief is. We're going to the very core of your mindset. So then you experience, fear on the perceptual level, or you feel, overwhelmed by emotion, you get angry, you get upset, and you don't understand why. You think it's the external world doing it to you. Oh, I'm upset because my relationship's not working out, or got fired from my job, or whatever. But actually, I'm upset because I chose to be a separate self. That's why I'm upset. So now I have this false self-concept with all of these negative thoughts and emotions that has to play out, and that I have to perceive the world this way if I'm going to maintain my belief in that self-concept. You see, perception, emotion, thought follow core belief, and that core belief follows the desire of your mind. What do you really want? So the only level of change is at this core level. It's pointless just trying to change perception without changing the emotion, the thought, the belief, and the underlying desire that underpin this. You can't do it. Behavioral change, let's just fix your behavior. It never works because there's no fundamental shift. You haven't changed the pattern of emotion, thought, belief, and the core desire. So this is fundamental change. This is the change that Geshe is asking us to make. Seek not to change the world up here, but seek to change your mind about the world by going in deep within your mind and looking at the core belief and letting it go. And that's the miracle when you do that. Because that process is the miracle, or the corrections we call it, because you've corrected your mind, but at a fundamental level. And now the whole house of cards of the ego has to fall away once you do that, which then means a new belief system. So I'm not separate. I'm not a victim. I'm not afraid. These thoughts and emotions are no longer justified. I am oneself. So only oneness is true. Everyone's my brother. I see oneness everywhere. I feel the love. I feel the peace. I feel the joy. It completely changes your perception. The thought, belief, thought, emotion, perception change. So the reason why your mind's resistant to oneness is because the ego knows that that's it. It's gonna be the end of it. That desire to be a separate self and oneness are not compatible.
So
one of them is true and one of them is not.
I might share my dream at this point. I had a dream last night, and well, actually, no, it wasn't last night. It was this morning. It was one of those really early morning dreams because I wasn't sleeping well last night because I had all this vision of all this Course in Miracle text in my head. So I don't know what it said, but it was disturbing my sleep, let me say. And so I slept in a bit this morning, and I had one of those morning dreams. And basically I was sitting with some people, I don't know the people, and I was sitting with these people and watching a film, and then this big guy came in with long hair and a machine gun, and it was like he was a really powerful being, but I felt he was really a good, powerful being, but he had this machine gun with him. And he then proceeded to give me a coffin and put the coffin over me as protection, and then shot everyone.
Wow.
And then I sort of came out, but it was, when I kind of thought about it, it was like that was him coming in, I don't know, killing my ego off, basically.
Yeah.
That's how I perceived the dream.
Yeah, very
that
interesting.
This big powerful being, whoever that was, came in and killed my ego. But anyway, that happened this morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's
Interesting.
prophetic.
Uh-huh.
Given what's happening today.
Yeah.
So yeah, all the people symbolize, the false thoughts, beliefs.
Yeah. I don't know who random people when we were watching some film or something. Yeah. So
yeah, we're watching the movie. It's all a movie projection.
yeah,
So
exactly. We were watching
your thoughts. The people are
Yeah.
watching the movie. So those are your thoughts. False ideas of yourself.
Yeah.
And he's going to just extinguish those. But the true self, the real you, is protected, and you're protected by a coffin. Isn't that interesting?
How weird.
Yeah, well, it's a symbol of the death. In the death of the separate self lies the resurrection into eternal life, into who you are.
Yeah.
So very symbolic dream. Amazing. Yeah, and that powerful being is like how your mind interprets the Holy Spirit. So you could call that an angel or a guide, or it doesn't really matter. It's just how your mind can perceive this powerful energy of God, ultimately. So pure formless awareness of perfect love taking form in your dream, because it has to have a form if it's going to show up in a dream, doesn't it? Mind interpreting it, so that someone else in a different cultural context era might have had a big
He-Man.
Yeah, well, they
hair.
might have seen a being of light with angels with wings, but in our modern context, that's like, okay, that's how your mind interprets it. And with a machine gun, because instead of a sword or something that's gonna kill off the ego, you now update that to a machine gun, because that's that's a modern symbol. So it's just the mind, interpreting the energies in a visual form. So it's a vision then. That was a vision from God, but it's still perceptual. It's not a revelation. You see the difference?
Yeah.
Because it's the symbols in the dream, but it's helpful. The dream fades, the vision fades, but it gives you a message. It's useful. That's all it's there for. Given what's happening today, that's pretty amazing. But that shows you it's all tapped in, and you're synchronistically linking into something that's beyond just your little ego. So thanks for sharing that. Okay, so I think shall we go into a meditation? I think that's pretty much the lesson, and the rest is practice. So I'll just guide you through that in practice. Okay, so shall we just make yourself comfortable, sitting comfortably, feet shoulder width apart. Back straight, cup your hands in your lap, close your eyes, and start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So you're breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. You clenching the sphincter muscle to lock the energy in, draw the energy up your spine, into your heart center. Put one hand on your heart to connect with your heart space. Draw the energy all the way up into the crown of your head. Just pausing at the top of the inhale. So it's a maximal inhale breath. Smile. Just think of all the horrors of the world across your mind. Name each one as it occurs to you. And then deny its reality. God did not create it, and so it is not real. So, for example, say, God or perfect love did not create that war. Think of the war in the Ukraine, and so it is not real. Perfect love did not create that airplane crash, so it is not real. Perfect love did not create that. Maybe someone you know is ill, or any other disaster comes to mind. Specify, name it, and so it is not real. And then exhale. Use the exhale to help you to let go of the thoughts. You don't have to think these thoughts. You have to feel the feelings. Thoughts and the feelings are illusion, false. If perfect love did not create these things, then they cannot be real. That's the fundamental premise. So just blow it all away. The breeze of your breath to the nothingness that it really is. If anything else comes to mind, breathe in. Breathe in and just notice, observe those thoughts, name them. God or perfect love did not create that. Whatever it is, for instance, cancer or heart attacks or strokes or whatever illness might give rise to fear in you. You name it. Perfect love did not create cancer. Perfect love did not create whatever it is. Just breathe into this and be breathing in presence, the awareness of perfect love. It's a spacious awareness. And you're just observing this personal repertory of horrors for which you're looking. These things are part of the world you see. Some of them are shared illusions, others are part of your personal hell. Remember, hell is victimhood. A story of victimhood. It does not matter. Because what perfect love did not create can only be in your own mind, apart from it. And so it cannot be real. It's your own fantasy, your own hallucination. So, therefore, it has no meaning. and recognize this fact by concluding the practice periods. Exhale on the truth of the statement. Just say, perfect love did not create a meaningless world. Perfect love, pure formless awareness of perfect love, which is just pure awareness, had nothing to do at all with this meaningless world. Blow all the air out, so you rest in peace and stillness. The bottom of the exhale for a few moments. And feel a sense of release. All of these horrors, the horrors of the world, the awful things that seem to happen here. It's all just part of the personal repertory of horrors, personal story of victimhood. It's your personal hell. And it just says it doesn't matter what that story is. Perfect love did not create or extend. It can only be in your own mind, apart from its. Therefore, it has no meaning. And so just rest in this state of perfect love. Allow pure formless awareness of this perfect love to arise in your mind. This is the result of honestly looking at your false beliefs, your fear, whatever form it may take, and being willing to let it go. Come into this experience. Perfect love. You realize that only pure, formless awareness of perfect love is true. Right now, that's true. And in the next moment, it will be true, and it always has been true, and it always will be true. And you rest in the peace of God, as it's been called, the peace of perfect love that surpasses all understanding. So just go there, into that peace, that stillness. For a few moments. There's nothing else to do, there's nowhere else to go. Nothing else to think about. Just breathe, relax, be still. Surrender into this perfect love for the next couple of minutes of deep silence. So just coming back to an awareness of the body and the breath, senses in the world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Change the sphincter muscle, raise the energy up to the crown of your head. Just pausing at the top of the inhale. Just one more time, scan your mind. When you have the horrors of the world that you judge as real, wars, disease, pandemics, and then name them specifically. So say God or perfect love did not create that. Whatever it is, name it. And so it is not real. Do that for whatever crosses your mind, and then exhale and just release it. Just blow it all away. It's the breeze of your breath to the nothingness that it really is. It's going, gone. Pull the lower stomach into the spine, expel the last air out. And you just rest here in peace and stillness for a few moments. Notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground. Notice what you're feeling and touching. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth, a smell in your nose. Notice that. Notice what you're hearing in the surrounding environment. Noticing all these things from a very still, calm, surrendered state. So this is the peace of God. It says it's been called in the Bible, it surpasses all understanding. Just stay connected to that in peace and stillness. Anchor this state in. So this state of awareness beyond your separate self. This is your true self. It connects you with your source, pure formless awareness, perfect love. Just anchor yourself into this state. It's this awareness that will help you. This awareness that will guide you through this exercise we're going to do now. This will name your ego's game and help you to let go of the false belief that is dictated, the petty tyrant in your life, dictating thoughts, your words, your actions for so long. This is the next stage in its undoing. It's a huge step. So know that God or pure formless awareness of perfect love goes with you in this. It's with you always. And whatever arises, however uncomfortable it may be, this awareness is there, telling you that it's okay. You need not be afraid because I am with you. And ultimately you will attain this awareness and this awareness only. This is your true nature and your true state. So it's a done deal. The ego will be undone, and this is just a process of that happening, of the unfolding of this hero's journey of awakening. the undoing of the ego. So embrace it. Just be willing to say, yes, I accept this. I'm here now. I'm going to do this. Participate fully in this exercise to get the profound benefits that will come. So it is said and so it is done. And then on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes and just look around for a minute from the state of higher awareness. So there's no judgment, no labeling, interpretation of anything, just clear awareness, state awareness. Now this awareness is extending into everything, to everyone and everything. And this awareness will guide you through this name your game exercise and the interpretation of it and everything that follows in the next 3 weeks of this course and beyond that. You know that in your heart. This makes you feel safe and secure. And no matter what happens, this awareness is in charge. And it actually knows what it's doing. It's the only guide you could trust in this illusory dream world. So that brings us to the end of the meditation and practicing today's lesson. So that's the first part of the session over. All right, so everyone's still with me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I think just to prep for the exercise, I'm gonna read I'll ask someone to read something from today's text reading, which is Beyond Perception, it's called, but there's a paragraph in there that's very relevant. It's really descriptive. This paragraph in the text reading really describes what this process is all about. So that's a nice kind of lead into it, and then I'll just give you some instructions and we'll go into it. So I'll share my screen again. So this is from paragraph 4 of section 5 of chapter 3, which is our text reading for today. Fundamental question. So who would like to read that?
I'll read it.
Okay.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, welcome. You popped in
Thank
at
you.
the right time.
Thanks. All right. The fundamental question you continually ask yourself cannot properly be directed to yourself at all. You keep asking what it is you are. This implies that the answer is not only one you know, but is also one that is up to you to supply. Yet you cannot perceive yourself correctly. You have no image to be perceived. The word image is always perception related and not a part of knowledge. Images are symbolic and stand for something else. The idea of changing your image recognizes the power of perception, but also implies that there is nothing stable to know.
Okay. So that actually, maybe it needs just a couple of capitals there for knowledge. The basis stands. So what is he saying then?
Okay, the fundamental question you continually ask yourself, I'm wondering what that is maybe, is it who am I or what am I?
Yeah, what he says in the second, you keep asking what it is you are.
Okay.
You know, what am I? Who am I? What's my nature? This is the questioning aspect of our minds that doesn't know. We can only ask that question if we didn't know. If you knew, you wouldn't ask the question, would you?
Yeah.
So it implies that the answer is not only one you know, but also is one that is up to you to supply. So the ego is, because it's questioned, it's denied your true reality. Now, that reality is open to question. And of course, it's going to supply an answer. That answer is your ego or your false self-concept or your image, your self-image. When people say your self-image, it's the same thing, self-concept. And that image is perceptual. It's perception related. It's not a part of knowledge. So it sits within the domain of consciousness, which is correctly identified, as Yeshua says, as the domain of the ego. So we go to the integral model, sorry, not integral model, the descent into hell. It's this domain of consciousness. It puts you within that domain, a false self-image that you've constructed based on a false desire to be a separate self. And that's now becomes your new image. You go all the way down the ladder from pure formless awareness of perfect love into the belief that you are an individual self with your own identity, with your own story, your own life, your own problems. And it's all very limited, lacking, lonely, suffering, and of course, death is the final outcome of the dream. And all of that is a false self-concept built upon the idea that you can actually be a separate self. And you can create yourself. So you can make up your own self-image and you can believe that, and then that becomes yourself. So that is what we're exposing today. We're going to do this exercise. Shows you what can reveal to you what that core belief is of the ego. What is the core of the self-image that you've made to replace perfect love, pure formless awareness of perfect love. And if you can see that, then you can understand why you've created the drama you have, why there's pain and suffering in your life, why these patterns happen, why you caught up in this crazy dream. Because that self-concept is what keeps you here. And that self-concept needs all of this to perpetuate itself. It can't continue without the guilt and the sin, the fear, the attack. It needs this thought system to keep feeding itself. So can you see that that's the source of your pain? That's what puts you in hell. Even talked about it in today's lesson. Your personal hell. Well, that's your personal helpless innovator little life concept that causes you to experience the helpless innovator little life of limitation, lack, loneliness, and suffering before you die. It's entirely self-created, which is good news, because if you made it up, you can also let go of your belief in it. It's not permanent and eternal. It's just a false, temporary, illusory self that you've used to cover over the truth, which still remains untouched, as it always was, as it always will be, that you are just pure formless awareness or perfect love. Okay. So anything else there? Images are symbolic and stand for something else.
Yeah. I like that. For me, it's like that, or like words. That's not really what you do. So in our form, as we are in form, as our self-concept, everything is around perception. an
Yeah.
image and words. Where is this beyond that?
Yeah.
That's
And he's
where the
telling us
knowledge-
very explicitly that knowledge is not related to image. You know, in this world, we have image consultants for the rich and famous and celebrities. No, I want to change my image. It's a ridiculous idea. Okay, so we'll just sculpt, we'll create another self for you, and we'll put that out there. And we all know that's false. It's just an image created. We call these people spin doctors, don't we? You know, image consultants, spin doctors. They'll make up some false image, project it out, and then go, okay, this is you. Well, it's not really you. It's just a made up image. But we all do this. Now social media has given us the power to spin doctor our own life, isn't it? Oh, I'll create an image, and I'll carefully sculpt that image, design it in Facebook or whatever your chosen social media platform is, and I'll project that to the world. I'll say, oh, there I am. You know, look at me, smiling, happy, selfie. Oh, I'm so cool. I'm here, and this is what people are doing. They're using these tools to create a false self-image, create and perpetuate a false self-image that is not true. And that's actually why social media is so popular, because it allows you to do that, gives you the power to do that, and then other people buy into it. So they like it. They go, oh, like, you know, and you get 50 likes on a post. And you go, oh, well, my self-image must be true. Oh, cool, because 50 people said so. Do you see how it works? And do you see why social media is such a big thing? Because it speaks directly to the false self-image. The ego loves it. Obviously, it can be used for other purposes. You can use it to communicate true information. That's possible. It's a communication device. But it was invented primarily by the ego to perpetuate the false self-image. There's also, the other interpretation where I'm connecting with people, I'm sharing. Okay, that if you interpret it correctly, that's useful.
Yeah.
But it seems like most people use it to perpetuate their false self-concept to the world. So this is who I am. There I am, Well, is that really you? Or is that just the image you've made up to be you?
Yeah.
So the idea of changing your image recognizes the power of perception, but also implies that there's nothing stable to know. So okay, well, you can change your image. Image consultants make a fortune. No, we'll change your image. We'll just tweak it. We'll do another social media profile for you. Change it. Recognize that there's a power in perception, but it implies there's actually nothing stable to know. That there's nothing true that is beyond change, doesn't it? Which is a pretty unstable self. The idea of creating yourself. As I said, when Lifepool started 20 years ago, we had a slogan saying, create yourself or recreate yourself. We made it. And I changed that. I was like, no, that's got to go. Because it doesn't fit with this, does it? I can't create myself. If myself is already created, myself already exists. It's beyond my ability to create or destroy. The idea that I can create myself must be false. And that's a fundamental difference between, say, the personal growth movement, where they're saying, you can create whatever self you want. And this teaching, the non-dual teaching, says, no, you can't. It's not up to you to create yourself. Fortunately, because look at the mess you made of it. Do you really want that power? You made a complete hash of it. So why would you want that power, so-called free will, when clearly it's a disaster? It hasn't worked out very well, has it? So why don't you just go back to how you originally were created, as you still are in truth, and accept that? Isn't that simpler than all this imagery, projecting images out, trying to believe in what's false, never really feeling certain because the image is uncertain by definition, doesn't really know who it is. It's subject to change. Nothing permanent and eternal about it. And of course, it will die. And every image of every person dies. Person dies, the dream character's gone, the body's gone, the image fades, and hardly anyone remembers it. And if you've ever looked at photos, John, you were saying the other day, you were looking at photos of your ancestors.
Yes.
And you go, well, when I'm gone, no one will remember them. No one will have any idea who they were at all. That image, whatever they believe, whatever people believed them to be, whatever they believed while they were alive, will be completely erased. No one will know. So it couldn't have been real. So we can kind of see this in the past, but we somehow don't see that in the future. That, you know, in 100 years, 200 years, no one will remember your life and what you did and your dramas and all the images you created and your social media profile. None of it will matter. So what will matter? What's permanent and eternal? That's the question. And that's, you know, what we're going to explore experientially today. Okay, so that's a nice little precursor to today. We'll go and look at this paragraph again when we do our text reading. But first, let's do the naming your game exercise. Okay, so I'm not going to record this. I'll just record the instructions. So what we're going to do is there's one person who will go at a time. They're in what we call a hot seat. Everyone else is going to find 3 negative things that they have to share with that person. Okay, so it has to be negative. It's an exercise. Don't give positive. There'll be another time for that. We'll do a flip as part of flipping a flop. This is negative feedback. And the reason you're doing it, people go, oh, well, I can't give negative feedback. That's not kind. That's not loving. It's not nice. You know, I just want to be loving and kind and unconditionally loving. Yeah, ultimately that's true. We do. But if you're not aware of the ego, which is the source of all your negativity, then you're blocked. There's a major block to the awareness of love's presence. And that block needs to be undone. That block needs to be brought into the light of awareness, as Yeshua is telling us. He's saying, you know, to love unconditionally, you must become aware of the blocks to the awareness of love's presence and let them go. So that's what this exercise is directed towards. Right? Love is beyond what can be taught. So it's not an exercise in unconditional love yet. It's an exercise in becoming aware of and exposing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. And so people are going to help you to do that. If they can show you your blocks very clearly, can show you your game. Remember, this is a game you've been playing. So it's a manifestation of your self-concept. And people can see it. You'll be amazed that people see the same patterns and they'll name it. And so you might get the same feedback 2, 3, 4 times. It happens often. If that happens, then you know, okay, I need to pay attention to that because that's a pattern that I have. And this has just exposed the pattern. And the ego is going to feel challenged and threatened. But remember that the ego is not you. So whatever your reactions are to this, those are egoic reactions. Unless you're in perfect peace. If you can just observe this without any mental, emotional movement, then congratulations, you're probably enlightened. You can just observe and go, okay, none of this affects me. But probably there's going to be some reaction. There'll be some thoughts, some emotions. Observe the body sensations as you're sitting there. Observe discomfort, changes in temperature, heat, you know, fidgety, itchy, you know, desire to get up and leave, all that. And just sit with it and observe it. And observe it not just when you're in the hot seat, but observe it when you're giving the feedback as well. Because remember, it's all projection perception. So if you give someone feedback, then you must be perceiving in them something that is also in you. So it works both ways. It's self-revealing. If let's say, remember one guy, he kept giving feedback on someone's mother. He said, oh, well, your mother doesn't love you or something. I was like, he did that 2 or 3 times to different people. I was like, okay, there's something there for you, for sure, because you're projecting. So be aware of that as well when you're giving it. And when you're in the hot seat, be aware of those thoughts and emotions that are arising. Okay? You don't have to worry about writing them down, recording them, because I'm going to do that for you. And I'm going to send it to you individually on Telegram. Okay? So you've got that feedback to help you to complete exercise 5, which will, once we finish the exercise, I'll go through that, and I'll tell you how to complete that exercise using the feedback, which will then be your homework for the next week, to really dig into this amazing feedback, right? This is exactly what you want. You want to expose the ego and really see it maybe more clearly than you've ever have in your life for the first time, because other people are showing that to you. So there's nowhere to hide with this exercise. You can't fudge it and pretend. It's just, you're getting it, and you take it, because you know that it's good medicine, although it doesn't taste good necessarily, and there's some resistance. It's enormously powerful, because it's going to help you to get to the very core of your false belief system, your self-concept, and undo that. And next week we turn it around. We flip that flop, which is your fundamental life operating program, which is your core belief of the ego. And once you flip the flop, then your essence identity will reveal itself. So that is the methodology. Okay, everyone pretty clear on that? Why we're doing it, what it's about, how it works. So you're just going to need a pen and paper, or if you've got a computer, you can type it into a Word document or something, as long as you can record it, because you're going to need to give the feedback verbally. You might forget it. So just what I'm going to ask you to do, whoever goes first, you're going to write down the feedback. 3 things, and keep it short. It's not an essay. It's a sentence, it's a phrase, or it's a word. So for example, I say to Susie, I see you as fearful, anxious, and self-conscious. I mean, I've just made that up off the top of my head. I don't participate, because I'm facilitating. I've done it once where participating was a disaster. Someone needs to hold the space and just be a facilitator. I have done this on a number of occasions myself. So I've been through the fire. I remember the first time. First time I did it, this chap, he was the facilitator, and I'd helped him to set up the whole workshop. I brought in about half of his people, because he asked me for help. So there was he obviously had some issue, but it was also my own projection. So he said, everyone was giving the feedback, and I was okay. I was kind of like, okay. I said I'll go first. There's like about 16 people, so it's a lot of feedback. I mean, this is gentle by comparison. And then he jumped in, and he had a go at me, and he was like, and he actually he attacked on the point that I think he knew would really push my buttons, which was A Course in Miracles. He knew I was very much into it, and he said, "Oh, well, you're just dismissing all the stuff as unreal, and you sit there smugly and you laugh at it, but actually, you're not being real." I can't remember exactly what he said, but I felt this surge of anger coming up. It was like, because I felt betrayed. I'd helped the guy. He'd come to me and said, "Can you help me and put this thing on?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll help you," with no financial reward at all. And I'd gone to quite a lot of effort, and I'd brought in, I had a reasonable network. I brought in like 10 people, and then he's doing that. And I was like, right. I could just feel this anger rising up. And it was a good test, because I could have jumped up and gone, right, I'm going to have a go, and we're going to have it on. And of course, he wouldn't have backed down, because it's his workshop. So it would have been a proper wrangle, and probably would have ended up walking out. And it wouldn't have been a good demonstration of what I taught all the people, was forgiveness. But I managed to go, okay, just I felt that rising, and it was like, okay, just let it go. And I went, well, I just said, that's your opinion. And I just kind of laughed it off. And I didn't rise to it, which is probably what he was trying to do. Whether that was he consciously did it to push my buttons, or he did it because he had his own agenda, I don't know. But it was all a good lesson. So if you find yourself getting triggered like that, just try and sit and observe. Don't react. And remember, none of this is personal. None of it's personal. Everyone is going into higher awareness, asking the Holy Spirit for guidance and asking them to bring through whatever is most powerful in the moment for that person. That's the prayer. Show me what can I say to this person that's going to be most helpful, right? The prayer is to be truly helpful. So perhaps that might be a nice thing to just look at quickly. I'll share the screen. Let's read the helpfulness prayer as a precursor to this. By the way, it's down here every day in your daily email. I've put this in there so you can read and reflect on this every morning if you want to. Okay, so I tell you what, Sally, will you read that for us and do a little clearing of any resistance to this process, just for 2, 3, 4 minutes, something like that.
Read it first or do the release on it?
How do you want to do it? Do you think? Can you integrate it into your process, or do it first?
Okay. So I'll say the release statement. You can either mute yourselves and say it out loud or just think the words. I'm ready to release all resistance to being truly helpful today. I release all resistance to representing the pure formless awareness of perfect love within me. I release all worry about what to say or what to do. All resistance to the awareness directing me. I release all resistance to being content around whatever it wishes, knowing that it's here. It goes there with me and leads me. I release all resistance to being healed and to help others heal. I release this from my energy in all forms, all levels, all points in time. Just do it once more. I'm ready to release all my resistance to being truly helpful today. All resistance to representing the pure formless awareness of perfect love within me. I release all worry about what to say or what to do. All resistance to the awareness directing me. I release all resistance to feeling content that I will be guided, I will be healed, and I will help others heal. I release all resistance around this in all forms, all levels, all points in time. Take a deep breath. And so it is.
And say to yourself, I'm here only to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent the pure formless awareness of perfect love within me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because this awareness will direct me. I'm content to be wherever it wishes, which is here now, in this process, doing it, knowing it goes there with me. I will be healed as I let it teach me to heal. And so it is. So just feel that awareness. This is the remembrance of perfect love in you. This is the Holy Spirit. In other words, it will guide you through this exercise and help you to experience what you need to experience. Whatever needs to arise will arise for you and for others, and will help you to receive and give the feedback in the spirit that it's meant, which is to be truly helpful to yourself and others. And so it is. So it is said, so it is done. Okay. So if you close your eyes, open them. So I think we're about ready. So if anyone needs the toilet or anything, just go quickly, get a piece of paper and a pen, or if you're going to use your computer, you can type into that. Just have something you can make notes on, and you might want to get a glass of water, a tissue or two, possibly, depending on your propensity to cry. But if tears come, that's all good. So just let them flow. Don't block anything. Don't hold anything back. Okay. So I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to stop the recording. So we're not being recorded.